Hello and welcome again to Intentism Shows. This is number 5 of the podcast of the official Intentism arts movement that comprises artists and writers and philosophers, musicians, actors, and multiple people from multiple fields. But we all maintain that meaning is the imperfect outworking of intention. That's all meaning is the imperfect outworking of intention. My name is Vittorio Pelosi and I'm your host for today. And thank you for joining us. Well, let's kick off straight away with Can I Have Your Intention, Please? This is the part of the show that keeps you abreast of intentionalism in the news. Now, on the 14th of December's issue of New Scientist, which is a very well-respected magazine, I think it's published in the UK, there was an editorial article, and it was entitled this: "The Truth Isn't Out There." The truth isn't out there. And it was a tagline, a subtitle as follows: "There's no such thing as scientific truth, only successive attempts to get nearer to it." I'll repeat that again one more time. There's no such thing as scientific truth, only successive attempts to get nearer to it. Well, straight away, there's a contradiction. It's circular reasoning. I'm sure that the writer intended this. But let me repeat it once more so you can see it nice and clearly. There's no such thing as scientific truth, only successive attempts to get nearer to the thing that doesn't exist. So getting nearer to what? Something that doesn't exist? How could you get closer to something that doesn't exist in the material world? Well, Kant's idea relates to this. He said that there is a world as it is, and there's also a world as we represent it to ourselves. There's a world as it is, and there's a world also that we represent it to ourselves. That is to say, that the world that we understand through our senses is not the world that really exists. But nevertheless, Kant is saying that there is a world, an objective world out there, which this editorial, the New Scientist magazine, doesn't seem to imply. So we would stand with Kant, if I can grab this quote out of context, because we would believe, yes, that Gadamer and Heidegger, that we mentioned in previous shows, their idea of our horizons, that we can't fully understand anything objectively because we have these horizons and the work has horizons. There is a lot of truth in that we bring a lot of baggage to anything we look at or we try to understand in the world. But although there's baggage, there's still a truth that's out there. There's still something that we can try and get closer to understand. Hence Van Hoose's hermeneutical spiral that we mentioned previously, that we can get closer and closer to the truth, the reality, the objective truth that's out there. Perhaps we can never get to know it fully, omnisciently. Again, tell me what you think. Please write in. Please comment below on YouTube. We welcome any posts, any comments, and anything that's constructive. We're happy to engage with in future episodes of our podcast. Okay, let's move on to Critical Corner. This is the part of the show we look at various critics and analyse what they bring to the table in relationship to intentionalism. And we've looked at Derrida and deconstruction before, and I'd like to just mention a couple of comments related to that. What was important, amongst other things for Derrida, was a metaphysics of presence. A metaphysics of presence. Derrida spoke a lot about this, a presence that work has, text have, that speech doesn't have. Derrida, as you know, coined the term deconstruction. That's been often misunderstood by many people when they're trying to use it in daily parlance and their critical thinking. But deconstruction maintains, notably, that the entire history of Western philosophy was built upon a metaphysics that privileged presence over absence. I'll say it again. Deconstruction maintained the entire history of Western philosophy was built on a metaphysics that privileged presence over absence. Let me give you some examples. Presence, the presence of the speaker. Hence, Western philosophy privileged speech over writing. This was influenced by Martin Heidegger, that we said before was a great influence on Jacques Derrida, and his understanding of Dasein, the idea of being in the world, which was always future orientated. You are thrown in the world, but the sense of being, of presence. Heidegger said, okay, Western philosophy has always tried to analyze various things related to being, but never tried to look at being itself. What is being? Dasein, being in the world. Well, Derrida flipped this understanding of presence, saying that speech has a presence, and immediacy when you see someone speaking that writing doesn't have, when there's the absent writer, that also was suggested by people like Roland Barthes, that the author has died because he's no longer there, tied to the work. Well, Derrida flipped that, and he said that there's a presence in text. You see, when someone speaks, they come and go. The speaker has left the building, whereby texts are always there. They're always there, whether it's a religious text 1,000 years ago, or a text that's been written a couple of hours ago. They're there in front of you, on paper, ink on paper. It's here. There's a presence there. And from that reason, we can see that there was a good argument why, if it's there, then we can engage with it now. Even if it was written 1,000 years ago, we can engage with it now. We don't have to worry about the author because he's gone, but the text we have, and then we can do other things with it, like deconstruction. But what I'd like to suggest is that modern technology has called into question this idea of presence and how we understand it in relationship to a particular outlet of communication. It's mixed it up. So, for example, a text or a picture can both disappear. So, the metaphysical sense of presence of text has been relayed and has been linked to pictures. A lot of the art world theory comes from literary theory, and the literary theory of the presence of a text has been used in art theory, and in fact Heidegger and Derrida both wrote a lot about art, and use the same argument that the work, the painting, the photograph is there. There's a presence there. But the thing can disappear very quickly. So, for example, Snapchat has images that come and go very quickly, and they're gone forever. They're gone in a blink of an eye. So different to how we've understood images in the past. We've got stories now on Instagram and on Facebook that does the same thing. Images come and go. There could be a text that you put on as a photograph. We often have images of texts that have been photographed by the phone or saved, and they come and go if they're used on Snapchat or Instagram. Conversely, my speech can be recorded. I can dictate to somebody, or it can be recorded on YouTube or any other video, and then that performance has a presence. So it's been swapped. So we have to be very careful if we maintain a metaphysics of something, and we go into great detail about it, when modern technology can change the whole playing field. And we have to look at things in a radically different way, and an opposite way. Very interesting, modern technology, and how it can be used to clarify things in philosophy. Well, let's move on to Practice Makes Perfect. This is the part of the show where we look at artwork, particularly intentist artwork, and we believe, as we said at the very beginning, our tagline in the sense, all meaning is the imperfect outworking of intention. And so for that very reason, we can talk about our art practice is the imperfect realization of the intention. Hence this idea of practice makes imperfect. Practice makes imperfect. So let's look at this part of the show. Well, we've looked at various artist forms and styles related to intentionalism and intentism. And we looked at intentist art with irony, if you remember a few weeks ago, with Big Breakfast, where my brother, Luciano Pelosi, had some alphabet spaghetti on toast, and it read something you could read. It was an understandable, intelligible sentence, but the sentence was saying these letters are random. Now, the only way you could understand what the sentence was, that the letters are random, is that the letters were not random. So it was a very interesting piece of irony. Well, something else that intentists try and do is to try and keep the creative process in the work. Now, it's very difficult, as we've mentioned before, that we've got this idea of this Cartesian dualism of Descartes, whereby the mind and the body is separate. So if the intention is in the mind, it can't be in the work. And as we said previously, if it's in the work, then why do we need to think about the mind? Just analyze the work. The work will have all the meaning that we need, all the epistemological qualities that we need. If it isn't in the work, so the intention has failed, then why think about the intention at all? It's not in the work. Let's still think about the work. So either way, the intention is invalid. Well, we've been interested in that idea, and to try and keep some kind of creative trail, a process in the work. We spoke about meta intentions. You have this grand intention to create something, and then the micro intentions while you're producing the work, and then the final intention is to intend no more. And we've spoken about that creative process as being a creative trail, insofar as when you might leave a trail for birds or for a children's game, you leave food or bits of paper, and they have to follow it, and they pick it up, and that trail will lead them along the same path. And we wanted to have artwork that could lead you along the same path as the artist as he's been creating the work. So how do we do that? Well, certain artists have kept elements of the editorial process in the work, those micro intentions, and we call that palimpsestism. Palimpsestism, this idea of layering. And a lot of the artwork we enjoy and we work on does that. One of the works that I can speak to you about now very briefly is the School of Postmodernism, which is the painting that I worked on myself for a number of years. There's very many layers of meaning in the concept, in the title, in the figures that are in the work. But just to say one thing in relation to what we've been talking about with palimpsestism, and that's that if you have a look at some of the figures, you can see traces of where I'd originally conceived the people to be, and you can see that it can be sometimes quite clear, or sometimes you need to dig a little bit deeper. But you can see my editing, my decision making, my micro intentions when I've been deciding to keep things or change things, and there's these multi-layers, this palimpsest quality in the painting. And if you're seeing this on YouTube rather than as an audio podcast, we'll put some of the pictures up of that there for you to have a look at. And if you want to know more, and maybe particularly if you're listening with the audio podcast, if you go to our official website at www.intentism.org, there's several pages about the picture, the painting. There's details of the painting, and there's a story and the ideas behind it. So please check that out. Okay, lastly, keep watch. Well, thank you very much for watching or listening to us with this podcast. Next week, we'll look at, amongst other things, the third practice of intentists, and that is to have a narrative artwork. And we mentioned that and how that is particularly relevant when you consider intention as being important. Please subscribe and like these videos. We enjoy making them, but we like to hear what you think of them. Please keep the comments coming. We'll try and include discussion of them in the programs like we've done a couple of programs ago. And we have over 50 Intentist Bites videos for you to look at on YouTube. They're short animation looking at one particular Intentist point for about a minute or so. And as we said previously, please look at our website, intentism.org, where you can engage. You can read various interviews with all sorts of people, including Noam Chomsky, about intentionalism, and look at the artwork that we do. And it's also our manifesto. So thank you again for watching or listening. Goodbye, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.